So, Bill, why don't we do this then? Why don't we go back in time, so to speak, a little bit and talk about what we've done overall? So, the very first part that we did, like part one of this series, was really just the basics, right? It was really just about, it wasn't about how to sell CyberFOX. It was about how to turn your MSP into becoming more of an expert. So, we talked about things like how do you stick to your guns and really build some confidence in what you're doing? We talked about things like what goes into seat cost and why $150 a seat is not sufficient, and how we need to start thinking about what goes into what we're offering, what gross margin should look like, and markup. So we got into the mechanics of things. So it was really a great conversation about just setting ourselves up for success. And Bill, why don't you talk about the second one that we did?
Yeah, so the second one, so we wanted to talk about, since cybersecurity is like top of mind for everybody, we wanted to go over like a very simple like defense in-depth strategy, talk about like what kind of solutions, what areas should we be protecting. We talked about foothold, the difference between foothold prevention and foothold detection, how we spend a lot of time in the detection space and not maybe enough time in the preventative space, right? Things that we could be doing there. And then, as far as like how to put that and turn that into dollars and to protect yourselves, being able to build a little bit of margin and space in your programs because the cybersecurity space is an ever evolving. The threats are always changing, and sometimes like, we have to make adjustments to the stack we have, the tools we're using, the processes we have. And so, leaving some room in that sort of when you put that package together and you start to assign a price to it and you start selling it, like leaving yourself some room so that you guys can make some adjustments when you need to without being like totally strapped, like, oh God, this is going to kill my profitability and I've got to go sell this to customers now. We want to be able to protect customers to the best of our ability with, whatever with the things that we feel are comfortable enough to get our hands on to do that with. And so leaving yourself a bit of headroom in there to be able to make some changes, mid-cycle of contract refreshes and stuff like that. So that was number two. And number three, if you want to give us the what's coming.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is what you see that little subtitle. How do we start thinking about packaging? Or wait, that's the wrong. Let me. It's my fault. I had the previous slide share up. I'll get the right one going here. But what we're supposed to be talking about is how to take all of this and get a marketing engine going behind all of this. How to actually start
Yep.
bringing this to bear. Because one of the things we think about is, okay, it's great to have the right stack. It's great to have the right communication, all those kind of things. But at the end of the day, how do I really get this communicated to a client who, Bill, I think if we can just be realistic, clients don't want to buy cyber. I don't want to buy, it's like the least I can buy, the better. It sounds expensive. Why do I have to have all of this in front of us? And so we have to recognize that's the default position of clients. Now, I know some of you have clients like, that's not my client. Well, probably because they've been through a breach, right? Or someone they know has, and they've seen the damage and they're like, I'm different. You tell me what we need to do, and we're going to do it. But that's not the norm. So today we're going to talk about how do we get this going from operationalizing, having it in place to getting it out there. That's what we're going to talk about today. So now I got the right slide deck open, we can jump in. So welcome. I'm Wes Spencer. Like Bill, I'm a cyber dork. I've been a cyber dork my whole career. I come out of banking, started a company called Perch a while back. We sold that to ConnectWise and doing a bunch of stuff. I love CyberFOX. I've been with CyberFOX not as long as Bill has, but quite some time, and love helping MSPs out in the journey. Bill.
Yeah, so I've been doing IT now for about Wes is my hero. Oh, thanks. Now I
Love
feel
me some
bad,
Corey.
right? So I've been doing this about 25 years now, and I've spent the last at least 15, 16 years of that in the MSP space. Before that, I worked for the government. I was in the army and did a bunch of stuff there. So, but I spent almost 10 years at ConnectWise and working in the channel. So I've really focused a lot, probably since COVID. I've always been security minded and security focused, but like really the last 5 or 6 years, just digging into like cybersecurity and like helping people find the gaps in their strategy and trying to see if we can't help shore those things up.
Love it. Love it. So this will be fun today. Chat is open. Everyone can chat. So add in anything you want. Make fun of me as much as you'd like. And we're all good with that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So, Bill, I thought we'd start here. We all struggle to differentiate. I remember doing this, and this is not an MSP problem. This is a universal problem. I remember years ago when I was still at my bank, we hired a facilitator to come in. We did end of year, beginning of the year planning, and he asked a question to us that still haunts me to this day. He said, "We're going to go around the room, the entire executive team. I'm going to ask this question." He said, "What makes your bank different from your competitors?" And you're not allowed to say customer service because every bank is going to say that. I'm like, what else do I say? I don't know. We're a bank. And we really struggled with that. We really didn't have a good answer. So I'm going to pose the same question to you all today. And let's hear it from chat. What makes you different from your competitors? And you're not allowed to say my customer service. So let's hear what give us some feedback in chat. And while I'm waiting for your feedback, and it's okay for you to say, honestly, Wes, that's why I'm here today. I don't know. This all is the crux of what we're going to speak to today. Because the reality is clients don't care, like we said about cyber. Like they just don't. They want to just hide their heads in the sand, hope that nothing ever changes, pay as little as they can, and then blame you when something happens at the end, right? So what makes you different? How do you differentiate yourself? If a client says, "Why should I go with you rather than someone else?" Is it because I'm just the cheapest? Is it because I'm just friends? What is the difference? So Amber checking in because we're awesome, clearly. Love you, Amber. I love it. Love the humor. John, I take on really small clients and let them work with me the way they want. Okay, so he's very flexible. We offer flexibility in our services. Okay, Michael, we specialize in serving the nonprofit arena. Okay, so there's a good one. We know your industry. We that's who we are. It's what we do. Great, Richard. A focus on client relationship, tech management, and security should just be the given. We also want to provide the icing on the cake. Great, love it. Bruce, try to handle clients in a consulting fashion. Awesome. And then Austin, our team and consultative approach. So, Bill, what would you say? I know you talk to as many MSPs as I do. What would you say or should be some of the differentiators?
So one of the things that I've talked to, and this is where you find, like kind of you're seeing a little bit of it in the chat there, where they'll a lot of times pick something that you're really good at, something you know very, very well. It's about going beyond the technology aspect of the partnership and really getting down to being able to understand their business. And I think that's what a lot of customers really want to hear. So like if you come from the financial space, like maybe focusing on financial customers or financial types of customers. If you were an accountant previously, focusing on, CPA firms and things like that. So because here's a little quick story on that. So when I worked at ConnectWise, many of you may know we did a partnership with a company called LabTech. And one of the stories that Matt used to always tell us about how he lost one of his biggest customers. And they were doing the technology thing, they were supporting them, they were doing all the tech support and providing hardware, stuff like that. But I think it came down to like this big healthcare package or something that this customer used. And the vendor that sold it to him said, "Hey, we also like we know your business really well and we're selling you your main software that you use, and we could also take care of your IT as well." And because we really understand your business. And the customer was like, "You know what, that sounds really good." And that was a lesson that he took away. He's like, "I want to make sure that I'm partnering with my customers, that I understand their business, and that we can sit down with them and help them through their business decisions and how technology and our team can support how their business is going to move forward."
Yep, love it. So this is where we're starting today for good reason because I think this is important for us just to level set is we need to really think about what makes us different and how we know. So a lot of times, Bill, when we're not good at that, we sort of default into things that I've seen. And this is not, again, not an MSP problem. It's like maybe all cybersecurity people. Again, I've been a CISO for years. And what do we CISOs love to do when my board doesn't care and they don't want to invest and they don't think they're a target? Then we try to scare them, right? We go for Monsters Inc., right? We scare because we care, right?
Love
And
it.
what we notice is it works for a while, right? With like, oh wow, the breach stuff, that's scary, you know, and we go and we pull the latest breach is $4.2 million for a small business. And it works for a while. But the problem is that eventually, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but eventually they're like, you've been saying this for a while. And I'm like, I just haven't seen it happen. Right. And so now we sort of violate the trust we're trying to build. Or we say, because we're nerds at heart, at least I know I am, maybe I'm alone in this, is we say, well, I'll convince them by pure data. And I just get this 500-page network detective report and I slam it down on their desk. I'm like, look at all the data and how much you should care about this and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, they're like, shut up, nerd. I don't understand this. It doesn't make sense to me. Sorry, you got lots of facts, but like, I don't understand what I should do about it. So like, how about I just say no? You know, ultimately it's what they, or worst case, Bill, we just get frustrated with them. And we're like, they don't get it. You just don't understand how important this is. You're going to get hit with something. You just won't listen to me. Right. And of course, it's just, now we're combative. Am I alone on that, Bill? Are these like the things?
Yeah, no, not at all. And I mean, a lot of us even go as far as putting together things like denial of recommendations forms and things like that. Like, hey, I recommended this and they didn't want to do it, so
Right.
you got to sign off on it so that, we all don't get in trouble and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very much like that. I think, a lot of customers kind of view like IT as like it's like buying an insurance policy. Like you don't want it. You don't want to pay for it. Maybe you'll need it, maybe. And at the end of the day, I'm going to try to pay as little as I possibly can for it. And so we kind of have to figure out how to get around that.
Yep. That's right. That's right. So, this boy who cried wolf mentality, we're all guilty of this. I had Sora too make this for me the other day. It's fun. I did such a good job. Where, you all remember Aesop's fables. The boy cries wolf, everyone comes running, there's no wolf. Now they're mad because you said something bad was going to happen and it didn't. And then of course the wolf does come eventually and the town doesn't come to rescue. And I'm going to replay that because it's just so great. And now no one comes to the rescue because they think you're faking it. We got to not be that. So I'm not saying, don't hear me say that cyber isn't important. Don't hear me say that a cost of a breach is extremely high. I'm not saying any of those things are not true. I'm just saying if we lead with scare tactics versus really diving into what they care about, what they need to know, we're gonna miss it. And so let me give you an example. I've heard people say this. I've been guilty of this. So let me just say I'm not preaching to the choir here. I'm part of the choir. We've all heard this. 60% of businesses go out of business when they get hit by a cyber attack. You don't want to be part of that 60%, right? We all heard that. I've shared that before. And here's what happens. Clients are like, I'm gonna challenge, I'm gonna call your bluff. I know people that have been hit with a breach and they survived. I'm not saying it wasn't damaging, but I'm just not sure about that. And I've wondered, like, where did that come from? Well, if you go check it out, it's actually not true. That is a made up statistic. There's no data to present. It's actually false. And sometimes we lead with data like that we've heard is true, and it's actually not. And the client, we erode trust when it comes to it. And here's where it actually comes from. Lamar Smith quoted that. He was a congressman, I think, in Tennessee or something like that. But he quoted that on the House floor. He did that years ago and he shared that statistic. 60% of businesses that get hit with a cyber attack go out of business. Like, whoa, scary. I can't be that. Well, where he got it from, I can't blame him, came from the National Cybersecurity Alliance. So he actually pulled the data from a very trustworthy source. Well, wouldn't you know it, Cybersecurity Alliance actually had to retract the quote, especially after Senator Smith shared it, or Congressman, whatever you call those people, I don't know, because they said we shared it and we can't verify the source. And what happened was, if I remember right, they pulled it from Denver Post. Denver Post had pulled it from a smaller newspaper, and the smaller newspaper, no one even knows where it came from. So it's one of those things where we pull data out right from our rear end that nobody fact checks. And then we start sharing it as if it's gospel truth. And then people call bluff on it because they don't think it's true. And we've just eroded our our authenticity. And so this is where we need to not be. This is what we got to be careful about, right? Is the snake oil. And I'm not saying, don't hear me attacking anybody today saying you're doing snake oil if you share this. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is sometimes we're talking about the things we shouldn't be talking about instead of things we should be talking about. Sometimes we're talking about things that the client doesn't care about instead of the things that the client desperately wants to have a conversation. We're missing opportunity. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, and that goes down to understanding and knowing the business of the customer that you're going to chat with, right? When they get the feeling that you really understand them and how they operate and what their goals and aspirations are as a company, and ultimately then you can kind of bring technology in and how it's going to support that. Then it's just a much more positive result. There is a little bit of like, hey, this is really out there. And I do believe that and we can help you with this, like how to set the expectation about like what kind of threats are out there, how do they actually work, and resetting their expectation. Because a
Mhm.
lot of people still think that, hackers and stuff like that, it's like some guy in a hoodie with a black hat and he's got 9 monitors with matrix code running on it. And it's just not the case, right? And just you have to explain that it's more about the opportunist, and you're just a name on a list, and that's what we're trying to protect you from.
Right?
We've all seen that Ring camera footage, right? So, guy walks up to your car door, and you see it on the Ring camera. He tries the door, it's locked. So, what does he do? He goes to the next house and he tries again until he finds somebody that left it unlocked. That's what you're trying to protect him from. And I think it's something like using analogies like that are things that everybody can relate to. They're like, oh yeah, dude, I saw that on Instagram or I saw that on YouTube. Like that, getting more to that stuff and less of the, hey, 60% are going out of business. You got to buy now.
Yep. Nailed it. That's exactly right. So, yeah, scary stats. And I'm not saying, and none of us are saying don't use stats. Just understand what works and what doesn't, right? So, some more Sora, because I've been having so much fun with Sora. Oh, no, the late, great Billy Mays and his late night shows, right? If we're not careful, we default into, but wait, just one more thing, right? And if we're not careful, the client feels like we're just late night Billy Mays. We're just here to sling the newest thing. And if I can say this, then I can do hot takes today, right? This is our show.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think we've been taught that our job as an MSP is to walk into the client meeting and say, "Hey, it's Wes, your MSP. I got a new thing to sell you." And that is not what clients want. Clients do not want to just have you come in every single time only because you got some new thing you want to sling at them. That is an they're gonna dodge you. They're gonna put you in front of a gatekeeper. If you're wondering why your QBRs, wherever you call them, are not going well, you might take a look and just say, "Am I just trying to sell them something every time I meet with them?" So that doesn't work, right? And unfortunately, we cyber people, being me, we default to hyperbole. So I'll give you some examples. I have some of my, I keep a hall of fame. Bill, I'm sure you do too. We all get hit up by
Mm-hmm.
people with all kinds of hyperbole, right? So I got reached out by this one person. I've trolled out their names. So you can't see them, but we stop all the things, right? And you see it highlighted. We recently developed a solution to not just disrupt cybercrime, but to stop any breach from any blocking any false access period. We're aware of using absolute terms in space and understand it offends some of you. I'm like, yeah, you think? And wouldn't you know it? I can't even think of who this company is anymore. And of course, if any of us are true, they would have just, there'd be no need for cyber other than them, right? So we use hyperbole way too often, right? Or another example, I pulled these off Reddit. If anyone knows my buddy Jason Slagle from CNWR, really great MSP, he kind of picked a fight that he won. It ended up getting into CRN. He was going against basically as another vendor saying we stop all breaches, everything, unknown everything, or another one that I saw promoted on Reddit. We stop all cyber attacks before they happen, right? And I'm like, if any of this were true, then we wouldn't need anything else. And the fact that we still see breaches today, that is it's snake oil, right? That doesn't work, and it might work short term, but we got to get over. And this is where we're going to get into like the mechanics here. Is that we have to understand that our decision makers, they do not respect us because we're technical. We think because I'm the smartest person in the room, because I know all the things, I know what to click on, and I know every little thing, that they're going to respect me for that. They're going to do what I say. Nope. We tried it, and they're like, go away, nerd. And understand this is not an MSP problem. This is actually a bigger problem for enterprise than it is for MSP. I don't know if anyone listens to the CISO series podcast by David Spark. It's really great. He had a whole episode on this where CISOs just got together and were honest about, you know what, I'm trying to communicate and it doesn't work. I've tried condescension, I've tried derision. And at the end of the day, they're like, shut up, nerd, go away. Nope, don't want to hear it, don't want anything of it. And so just I'm level setting that this is where we're at today. So I want to talk about some of the things that I think we mistakenly lean into when we try to market our cyber program and it doesn't work. And then we'll get into things that do work. So first of all, reports. Like we said before, dropping all kinds of junk on front of them. It's like, look at all this, look at all these problems, look at all this data, look at all this stuff. Does not work. It's just raw data that they don't care. Another thing that I don't think works is buying tools. Okay, cool. You got the most tools in your stack. Nobody cares. Do you want an award for that? In fact, I've seen great MSPs with very few tools, and they put in just the things that they know that matter. They're protecting the margins. They're making sure they can scale effectively. And like you said at the beginning, Bill, they build room to have margin in that. So if things change, they can actually have the operating capability to handle some of those things, right? And understand that you're always going to find another vendor. As a vendor on today, I'm just telling you, you can go to any big conference and you will see a sea of vendors everywhere. And just buying the next vendor is not what makes us secure. And I know it makes us feel good and fuzzy to say, I bought this new thing, but then I got to figure out how to take it to the client. The client doesn't want it. And so then I bundle it in and now my margins are eroded. Now I'm wondering why I have no money to even survive and take my family on vacation, right? So we fall trap and victim to this, don't we, Bill?
Yeah, so a couple of big things there, man. Like their tool sprawl is a real deal, right? And I think, you guys can tell me in the chat there, like, kind of give us an idea, but the average tool, like the number of tools that an MSP has to or is currently using is somewhere between 20 and 25 tools. Man, that is a lot of platforms to learn, different technologies. They all do something different. And a couple of things that we have found after talking to thousands of MSPs is number one is they don't the eyeballs. Yep. Glenn, you know what I'm talking about. So is that, one, we're not maximizing the tools that we do have and getting the most out of those. Most people only use about 40 to 50% of a particular tool's capabilities. And so, like, one of the things we want to look at is how to get that to more of like a 75, 80, 85%. How can I use most of the functionality? So many times I've heard customers leave and they'll be like, oh, yeah, well, we went to this other vendor because they have this functionality. And we're like, yeah, we do that. It's actually right there and nobody asked, right? And some of that is the vendor's communication and stuff like that. But we call vendors partners, and it from all for all your vendors, not just if you're a CyberFOX customer or anything like that, but for all your vendors, like truly like get to know your account management team, have those conversations with them, understand what the platforms can do, try to get the most out of what you currently have. And then the other thing would be is look at a framework, right? Give yourself some kind of lattice work and guidelines to work from so that you can lay your tool sets and your processes on a framework, and then the gaps will really start to become clear. We can't be an expert in 25 different tools, right? It's just even the best of us technicians and guys that love technology, it's just really challenging. So we got to figure out how to get the most out of what we have and use everything to the absolute fullest.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, one more I want to share is AI. Well, AI will just fix all the problems. I talked to some vendor and they said, our automated AI security will solve all the things for you. And we see hyperbole everywhere. I went the other day and I just went to Google and I'm like, AI cybersecurity platform. And this is the number one paid search that came up. So someone probably paid a lot of money for me to click on this. And I trolled out the name because we're not here to badmouth names, right? But their app says secure every app with AI fixes focused on the 5% of risks that matter. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't even know what that means. I don't what do you do?
Yeah,
Right?
that's another challenge too, right? It's always about the buzzwords, the shiny things, stuff like that. It's one thing we don't have in IT, man, is like a regulating body that says, here's what the terms are, here's what they mean, here's the definition, and to give you an idea, because like you and I, Wes, we can make up something right now, and by the end of the month, it'll be like the next greatest thing.
Maybe we should do it, Bill.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yes, AI driven buzzwords. Yeah, and then even the paid awards that I showed down here, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so some articles I think are really valuable. And if, by the way, if you're not paying attention to what's happening in like the AI leadership circles, you really should. You should be focused on what their side. I was just listening to an interview the other day by the CEO of NVIDIA, and just being aware of what they're seeing, what they're talking about is really valuable. So, a couple things. This comes from Cybersecurity Dive. AI powered vulnerability detection will make things worse, not better. Former US cyber official warns. You can go read this article if you want to, but high level of this is basically what they're talking about is it's yes, AI is good at finding anomalies and all this kind of stuff, but it's going to find a plethora of things. It's going to generate noise for us. It's going to want to be helpful. We all know this. AI
Hmm.
is wanting to be so helpful and everything. So it'll find all these tiny things and send me down, wild goose chases more often than not. So just one article I found that it's not always just this wonderful thing that we ever think. And then this one really rocked my world, Bill. And I shared this at the CyberFOX Summit a couple weeks ago. But this comes from InfoWorld. This is a must-read article. Just came out recently, a week or two ago. Software development has a 996 problem. What they're talking about is this style. Some overseas places believe in working 9 hours or whatever it is, 6 days a week, 9 hours, and whatever it is. But it's this idea of overwork, right? And the article is basically like software development is the same thing. Now that we have AI generated software development, don't hear me say things like using Claude and Lovable and all these things to do. Like, don't hear me say don't use that. I'm not a Luddite. What I am saying is the article is very, very telling in that what it's doing is it's generating code at superhuman speeds. That's good. We can do all kinds of stuff we've never been able to do before. But what it's doing is if we're just writing code and pushing it into production with no thought, no human interaction, no, is this correct? Is this the right thing? All we're doing is we're jamming up tons of new latent risk that we've never thought about before, right? And so it's important for us to think about this. And one of the things the article talked about is code is a liability, not an asset. Every new line of code that's written is a potential vulnerability, is a potential 0 day, is a potential really bad thing for us. And so what that means is that humans are actually more important than ever before in the QA process and the intelligence of what's going into the code that's being written in the why. And so we can't just default, hear me. AI is awesome. I use AI literally every single day. But understand it's not just this, it solves all my problems and everything goes away. There's much more to it than that, right, Bill?
Yeah, all and one of the things that a lot of people talk about is like AI prompts and stuff like that. So like it doesn't necessarily understand inference or nuance or anything like that. So, we have to be there to review what it's putting out.
Right.
Now, and there's the good side of AI, like, it can help us do better, it can help us review code, it can help us make sure that, maybe we don't have some vulnerabilities or something that we didn't see. But make no mistake, like if they're using it on the side of like creating software and helping people, there are almost as many people on the opposite side using AI to figure out how to dismantle what AI put together. So we really have to be vigilant, and this AI is really starting to become prevalent in cybersecurity attacks. It can just do things so much faster, and without us having to code the specific logic, it can do things a lot faster and a lot more malicious than we want it to. So on the good side, it's great, but also it's out there on the bad side too. So we have to watch it from both sides.
Exactly. Exactly right. Okay, so we're halfway through. And so now what I want to do is I want to change the conversation from n- the negatives, the thing, just that into like, what do we do about it? Like, let's get practical. How do we make sure we use our value, our time well today? Because I know y'all carved an hour out for us today, and that means something to me. So we're gonna spend some time talking about some things I think will really help you without the snake oil, without the hyperbole, some things that'll help. So start with the rodeo picture. Where the heck am I going with this? One of the things that I learned in my banking days, I'm gonna make an analogy. I'm gonna bring it home for you. In my banking days, I remember sitting down in board meetings and listening to my CFO talk. And the way my CFO talked was a lot different than the way I talked. The way I talked was, look at these new threats and we got to do these things. The way he talked was, he said, we, from a financial perspective, we're a little bit more healthy than these competitors and a little less healthy than these competitors. And if we look at our Texas ratio, Texas ratio shows that we're here and we should be there. And what does the board do? Like, wow, we can't be behind that competitor. What do we do to fix it? Glad you asked, the CFO said. These are the three things that we should do that will fix our Texas ratio and get things better. And I'm like, what the heck is it about this Texas ratio that's getting the board to listen to my CFO and get them to take action right away without judgment? So as soon as the meeting's over, I go back to my office. I'm like, what is the Texas ratio? You can do the same thing. If you want to see the Texas ratio, it's this. It's a bunch of complex nerd math data. But you know what's so cool about the Texas ratio is that you look at all that math that goes in and it outputs a score. And that score is basically this. If you're 100 or above, you're a healthy bank. If you're 100 or below, you're an unhealthy bank. That easy. And here's what's so cool about this. Decision makers don't have to worry about the math. They know that the math is valid. All they care about is the end result. So I say this to you as an MSP. Your job is to do the Texas ratio. Your job is on the back end to do the complex math. Your job is to say, I am the expert and I know all this stuff. But what I'm not going to do is talk to you about non-performing assets and tangible common equity, all the equivalent of the IT stuff of that. I just want to share with you how you doing. So I've seen great MSPs do this. They'll literally say, I know one MSP, they basically have their version of this, except it's IT related and cybersecurity related, and they output it into a score, A to E, just like a report card. And they go to their client and they say, hey, you're at a C right now compared to all our other clients. And the clients, well, why are we at a C? Well, it's pretty simple. These things right here, we need to work on it. Honestly, if we can do these two things the next 2 months, your score will be pulled back up to an A minus. It's not the shining best ever, but you're way ahead of your competition. Well, let's do it. That makes a lot of sense, right? Just really making it simple. Let me give you another analogy because I just think analogies are helpful. My nephew was staying with us for some time, started getting sick and lethargic, couldn't figure it out. And long story short, we take him to the ER after a couple days, and they're like, "Hey, he's got type 1 diabetes. We got to like get him on insulin now." And we're like, "What? We don't have a history of diabetes in my family. It's one of those wild things." And so we got him up to speed. Everything's great, but the doctor came in and gave us this big old report of all this data, and he's like, "Oh, wow, 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 wow." And I'm like, doctor, I thank you, but like this is I don't understand this. What do we don't have anyone with diabetes. I don't know how to treat it, how to he said, oh, got it. I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, what do we do? He grabs a pen, he circles this data point, he circles that data point, circles that data point. He goes, all you need to do is worry about those things. If you keep that in place, you're good. And here's a pamphlet that'll help you do it. Ha, I can follow that. That makes sense. I love that he had the raw data, so now I have the confidence he's doing the right thing. I don't need it. I don't need to see it. I just need to know you know it. Tell me what to do about it. This is how we operate. This is how we talk to our clients about it. Yes, we have the data. If you want to see it, I can show it to you. But what I really want to do is say, these are the three things we need to work on. And so we're already doing this. Microsoft has a secure score, right? You can compile like a CIS controls and say, hey, here's where we're at on a map. And these are the three things we need to work on. But we've got to get to a point where we distill it into simplified language because a client will operate and move on simplified language. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, a lot of us are, to your point about big reports, Wes, right? A lot of us are, to be fair, we're not necessarily salespeople or marketing people, we're technology people. We get the ones and zeros. We understand how to set servers up, build workstations, put software together, work on policies, build GPOs. Like that's the world we live in. That's what we understand. And it's kind of like the doctor giving you that big report with a bunch of medical mumbo jumbo. You're just like, man, I don't freaking get any of this. And that's kind of what happens. You dump a 250-page report on their desk. It's all pretty and slick and it's got pictures and graphs and stuff like that. But they're just looking at it like, this is Greek to me, man. So like distill it down. And it's something that I think early in my sales career a long time ago, somebody said this to me. They were like, just focus on the 3 to 5 things.
Yes.
What are the 3 to 5 most important things that are going to move the needle forward? The rest of it is just noise.
You nailed it. So let's get some feedback from the audience. How are we doing with this? Give me a self-assessment of like, yeah, that's something a good takeaway. Thank you. We're going to work on that. Or we're actually doing that. And here's how we do it. Give me some feedback in chat on what that looks like for you today. Are you doing a good job distilling? And how are you doing some of that? I'd love to hear back because this is honestly an opportunity for us to learn from you, like what's working well for you, what you're doing well. Because we'd love to hear. All right. So while we're waiting for that, let me cover another. This is a bit of a hot take, and let me give the hot take, and then I'll explain it. We also have to recognize that every client is a snowflake. Now, here's what I mean by this. They're not actually snowflakes. They're not all actually their own unique individual, and they are all so different. We've been taught over and over, we standardize. Everyone gets the same thing, no exceptions. And there's truth to that, right? Like that is true. But that's not necessarily how we need to make the client feel. There's a difference because remember, today we're talking about marketing. We're talking about how we communicate, how we purvey value. On the back end, it might be very standard. On the front end, it might feel very custom. Okay. And some of you even said this at the very beginning. What makes you different? A couple of you said we're very, very custom in what we do. That's great. The key is this. We need to have the perception of custom and the ability to operate custom, but with a base level of service that really doesn't change all that much. I'll give you an example of that here in a minute. Okay. So what we see though is standardization doesn't always equal scale. What I mean by that is if everyone's their own unicorn, what you end up with is everyone is different, and every operating service you have is a different, and different terms of service, and different, everything's different. You can't operate that way. But at the same time, if you expect every single client to be exactly the same, we all know the reality doesn't work that way. So then you have exceptions galore. So there's a happy medium here where we offer a component that doesn't change to everybody, but we offer some perceptions of differences. And let me give you an example of this. Take a regular suit store. Okay. So I walk in and I say, I need a new suit. And they say, great, Mr. Spencer, we'd love to help you with that. And I walk up, I stand up on that little tall thing and they measure and they do all this stuff. I'm like, I'm feeling awesome, man. They're like, please, yeah, I'm not that fat. Come on, man. They measure me up just perfectly. And they say, okay, well, we've got all this data. We'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll have this perfect suit for you. I'm like, wow, it's amazing. Now, what happens is on the back end, they go to the back of the house, they pick my 44 regular, they pull it right off the shelf, they bring it to me. They might make one little tuck right here. They might change my arm length just a little bit. But other than that, it's an off the shelf suit. But I feel like it's custom. That is what we do as an MSP. So, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this, and Bill, I want you to help me bring this home too. We're going to say in our stack, we offer these things, right? But I also know that you're a bank. And so as we offer you these things that everyone gets, I'm also going to make sure on the top, I apply this to banking regulations. Right? I'm going to make sure that we do the right things that your FFIEC says you have to do. And that's where some of my customness comes in, some custom reporting, some custom language. But ultimately, what I'm bringing for you as part of the stack is the same thing. That way, I avoid tons of exceptions, but I feel like I know you well. And I'm asking you questions about what are you trying to accomplish and what's your goals for the year and what are you trying to make sure that you meet the needs on. And I'm answering that and providing you a technology roadmap that applies. But at the end of the day, what I'm doing is the same thing I do for everybody. You see how this works? And don't hear me saying we're being snake oily on that or we're fooling the client. This is how we do all things. It's a standardized, think about a car. I bought a Ford Bronco. There might be three different editions of that Ford Bronco, but by and large, it's all the same. It's just, do you want this technology package a little bit different? And do you want these floor seats or whatever? Get a little customization that makes me feel good. But at the end of the day, the Bronco that's rolling off the lot is the one right behind it as well. Minor differences. Bill?
Yeah, there's a foundation, a set of foundational elements that drive the business, and then there are some small changes and nuance we can make along the way. I mean, it's no different for us, right? Just give you a little peek under the covers. Like, you have a particular software package, and fundamentally, that software package does essentially the same thing, but I can apply, certain parts of or functionality to a certain set of requirements that you might have. But fundamentally, I didn't change the code for you. I didn't make any necessary changes to the fundamentals of how the system works. We made some adaptations in order to fit, you into the area that works best for you, right? And that's where you go back to, I understand your business, and I'm going to focus on the 3 to 5 things that are key and important to this being a success.
Yep, exactly right. So I feel like I just paid Michael to ask this question. Great stuff. How would you relay this across social media platforms? So we're about to talk about next. So thank you for asking that. And coming back to Glenn, we were able to scare our current clients into upgrading their stack, but it's not sustainable. We use our QBRs to just open up the conversation and give them options. Don't try to squeeze everyone in the same box. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
But you got to have some fundamentals, right? You got to
Right.
have you have to have the base building blocks in place. And sometimes you may just move those blocks around a little bit, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's the same core fundamental stack
Hmm.
that we're using. And then we make some fine-tune adjustments.
Hmm.
And it really does give that suit picture was just really brought it home for me. Was like every suit is essentially the same. There's a pair of pants, there's a coat, there's a shirt, right? Probably a tie. And then, well, what can I do to jazz that up? Maybe I'll put a little napkin in the pocket. Doesn't fundamentally change like the inventory I carry, how I operate my business, how I do my measurements. But then we can kind of zhuzh it up a little bit. Well, maybe put a little napkin in there. Maybe we add a vest underneath it, right? Maybe we change how the break is on the pants. But
Hmm.
fundamentally, the core of the suit is the same. It's a jacket, pants, and a shirt, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Exactly right. So let's get even more practical to Michael's question. So, how do we communicate? So, first of all, I would ask you this. When you're talking to your clients, are you are you on the base level, the elementary level? Just fix my stuff. You're my MSP. You're here to fix things for me. Or are you actually in the deeper conversation where the client cares about, which is help me grow, help me meet my objectives? Hear me. The MSP of tomorrow is not the one that's just selling all in seat price service. We'll always do that. I predict that over time, we will see more and more revenue for MSPs coming from project revenue, from things like business transformation, all these things. And a component is managed service, where we say, oh, yeah, we'll do that's table stakes. We'll do all that stuff for you. But what we're really here to do is talk about what you're trying to do as a business, how to get there. And we're going to help you revolutionize. That's the future. I am so bullish on MSPs. I get asked all the time, like, you think AI is going to like make MSPs irrelevant? I'm like, heck no. AI is going to make MSPs more relevant than ever because it's going to bring tools to bear that only you'll understand how to use. The client won't, and you become the great sage that helps them make sense of all of this. Like, understand it's bullish for MSPs that seize on this. So are you having those conversations? Now, how does that go to social media? It goes this way. You should be producing content that talks about those things. So if my client is a CPA, I should be producing things like, here's 5 things that are revolutionizing the CPA industry, and have links to sources that you know are accurate. You should be reading CPA news sources and journals and all those things that are industry specific, and then relaying that, run it through ChatGPT if you want, relay it into common language and share it out. So what I would be doing on social media is giving away free help, free knowledge, free things that are going to help you. And by the way, at the end of this slide, we're going to actually do that with you. CyberFOX has done something just like that. I'm going to give to you for free. No questions asked. So that's what I would be doing, right? Then I would start assessing my team to say, how good are we at this? And one of the ways you can find out is, are you being gate kept? Or are you meeting with the actual decision makers? So what I would do is, in every QBR I'm having, whether I'm running them as the owner or my team is running them, I'd be looking over that to say, am I meeting with the person who actually makes the calls? Or are they putting me in front of an office manager because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to sell them something and they don't want to make the meeting? That'd be a major KPI for me. And then we should understand that my job is not to be a buffet. My job is to be a Michelin star chef. And here's what that means. I go to a Michelin star restaurant, their menu is probably going to be thinner. Why is their menu thinner? Because they say we excel at these things. If you want some off the shelf spaghetti, go to like Golden Corral. And you want to couple that with roast beef and green beans and banana pudding, it's all going to be off the shelf, mixed together, nothing special. We're a little different. We do these things, we do them really, really well. So that you should be communicating that. And so you can't be all things to all people. Maybe in the early days you can, but ultimately you can't. So let's get structural here. Let's get into what I think the marketing blueprint should look like now, knowing all of this. First of all, your ICP, your ideal customer profile, is your be all end all. What that means is, it can be, your ICP can change. It's okay. But at the end of the day, you need to pick who you serve. And I've seen MSPs go, I've seen all industries go wrong with this. But as an MSP, here's where you go wrong. You start picking clients that are too small. They're outside your ICP. They cause noise for you. They cause challenges for you. They bark. They don't care about what you're doing. And ultimately you can't address them. And you inefficient like crazy. On the other end of your ICP, you take a client too big, the whale, and we've all seen this happen. They're my biggest client. I had them for 2 years. They're like 80% of my revenue, and then they fired me because I couldn't meet their needs. And now you staffed for them, so now you're firing people. Now you're in a revenue hole you got to make up for, and you're on the struggle bus. So understanding your ICP and serving it well is really, really important. So question for the audience: how many of you have a defined ICP, and state it for me? Tell me what your ICP is. We serve X clients with these criteria. I want to know. And if you don't have it, it's probably time for you to build it, because you can't speak to everybody. You just can't. Some of you said this earlier. You deal with nonprofits. You deal with cyber insurance or insurance companies, whatever it is. Some of you have done this already. Good for you. But remember, the ICP is not just an industry. It's also a particular size, and it might be certain things like people that want to be cloud first, right? It could, whatever it is. So understand your ICP is really important. You got to define it, because then you can speak to it and you can speak to it effectively. And then you got to build the no list. What are the things I just don't do? What are the things I just say, sorry, it's not for me. It's a deal breaker for us. If you're not okay with Microsoft Cloud, we can't work with you, right? We do Copilot. Outside, I know there's a lot of other great stuff that's out there. I'm not saying it's not, but Copilot's what we know. It's what we do. It's who we are. If you're not okay with that, we'll probably find you a different partner. And I can't go do three other things. And to Bill's point earlier, I gotta focus, gotta niche down. And then outcome first discovery, right? We've got to make sure that we're speaking towards, you told me you're trying to accomplish this year. The things I'm doing for you, this roadmap, this plan, this strategy meets those things you said. Going back to that Texas ratio. And then we've also got to understand, like we said before, repeatable back end, tailored front end. Just like a restaurant, back of house, front of house. No one cares how the sausage is made. You just want a great sausage that comes out every single time. So if you follow this blueprint, then what will happen is the things that you do as far as SEO, the things you do as far as social media sharing, free giveaways, if you've done these things, then all of a sudden, all of the mechanics that you're producing with this will make sense. And this is where MSPs go wrong is they haven't done this work and they hire some third-party marketing firm and they say, we'll find you leads. And then they say, well, tell me what a good lead is. You're like, I don't know anyone that'll pay me money. And of course, you wonder, oh, I paid this third party marketing firm. Well, the marketing firm didn't want to spend the time to learn you and learn your industry, and neither did you. And so, no wonder it fell flat. So, sometimes we put the cart ahead of the horse, don't we? And we say, go find me leads. And we haven't done the prior work that we see here to make all this effective. And this is where we struggle. All right. Bill, any thoughts on this?
No, I just really, I actually wanted to comment on something you mentioned on a slide before, like the fix it or am I helping you grow the business kind of scenarios, right? So, we get caught in that, we can fix problems, we'll solve it, we'll make sure everything runs smoothly. So, what happens, and this is something I think a lot of people fall into as well, is like what happens when all the stuff is fixed, when everything is working, when everything is going well, and, they don't necessarily see you for a while, right? And then they start to wonder, well, why am I paying all this money? How come? What are you guys actually doing for me? Like,
Mm,
everything works fine. I don't really need you, right? So, like, having this defined and being able to follow this blueprint and being able to be a partner in the business and a stake in their growth, that's going to be, I think, the overall keys to success and the keys to customer retention.
yep. I 100% agree with that. Man, no comments so far. There's a whole bunch of y'all on this webinar today, and no one's giving me any ICP. I know some of you have an ICP defined. Give it to me. I want to see it in chat. Let's brag on you. Give yourself an opportunity. Let's pat you on the back a little bit. But I can't believe that of all the people that are here, no one has an ICP. Surely y'all have defined it, and it'd be helpful for all of us to see what an ICP looks like. Even if it's not perfect, you can say it like, I'm still working on it, but this is what it is so far, we think. Okay. Give us some feedback there. Maybe we need to do a whole webinar on ICP. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so here's what I think we should avoid. As we said before, it's not just about jumping into lead gen and pay per click and all this kind of stuff. Lead gen, pay per click, all that can be effective. But I have heard from so many MSPs that have tried the generic stuff and it doesn't work because generic doesn't sell. The only time generic works is when you're the cheapest on the market and everyone knows it's the only place you can go, like Walmart. MSPs are not Walmart. You're just not. And so going back to the very beginning, what we opened up with, we struggle to differentiate and we just say, well, my customer service is better than the next. Sorry, that's not enough to move the needle. So we really have to understand what makes us unique. Why should an MSP pay you more money, or what should a client pay you more money than the MSP down the street? What makes it different? So cool. Some MSPs are coming in, or some ICPs are coming in. I take the small clients most MSPs don't want to work with. Awesome, cool. And again, as John, as you grow, that can change. And if it does, great. Ben.
I like Monica's 9 to 5, 5 to 25 users. We know our target audience. Like they know what they want. They know they want them on Microsoft products, no healthcare, and this is a big one. This really caught my attention. No 24/7 business, right? So if you're not a 24/7 shop, if you're not set up to be able to handle calls, or you don't want to be woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning for, because you took on a manufacturing client, they run 24/7. That's not how you guys are wired. Like that's a key thing to understand. And knowing when to, it's hard sometimes, but knowing when to walk away and go, you know what, this just isn't the right client for me.
Right. Yep. Yep. It's good. Yeah, so read those. They're all. It's very important for us to define our ICP and who is it that we serve. And because once you do, again, I'm beating a dead horse, I know, but once you define that, then you'll learn how to speak to it. And you want to be effective with this. You want to make sure you're speaking to the right audience. Otherwise, you're wasting your cycles. You really are, and that's where all those things don't work. Okay, so a couple more things I think will really help here when it comes to like building good marketing. First of all, understand what your clients are trying to accomplish. I always joke when I share this slide, those of you who see me share it before, I don't know anything about sports. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know what Miami, I know where Miami is. I think it's the Heat. I know he's about to put the ball in the hoop and it's going to be worth points. I know that much. But what I really know is this guy's on offense. He's as tall as that rim. He's going to score. He's going to put the ball in the sports ball hole and he's going to make points. That's what I know. Your
Such a
job,
nerd. You're such a
that's
nerd, Wes.
that's what I know. It's what I know. I'm sorry. It's what I know. But here's what I also know more than that. You got to do this with your clients. Your job is not to put the ball in the net. That is their job. And your job is to ask, what are we doing? What's critical for us? What's mission critical for you this year? What are you trying to accomplish? What's big for you? If you're not asking those questions, you're missing the opportunity to help your client go where they need to go. And then when you get those answers back, even if it's not like technology related, your job is to say, man, thank you for sharing. I got that written down. We're going to keep that top of mind, but it might, I'll give you an example. My favorite example to use. They say, well, Bill, I'm 65 and we're just thinking about, giving this to the kid. She's been a great, she's ready to take over. Wow. Congrats on the retirement. That's amazing. Can I have a conversation with her? I just want to make sure I know where she's wanting to take this thing. And as we build that transition plan, you sit down, you meet with her, and she's like, mom and dad just did it a little archaic, and I'm ready to take things to the next level. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'd love to help you build a plan. Can you talk to me about some of the things you want to do differently? If you don't have that conversation, you miss, and they fire you right away because you never had the conversation. So you got to start asking those questions. And then you go on defense. Same thing. I don't know what that guy is. Well, I know one thing, that the other dude is not going to put the ball in the net. He's stopping it. I don't know if it's legal or not. I don't know, but I know he's stopping it. So same thing. Your job is to also come in and say, now that I understand where you're trying to go, my job is also to squash anything that's going to prevent you from getting there. That's part of my job. That's what I thrive on doing. I want to make sure that you can do what you need to do. And my job is to put my hand over that ball to make sure that some bad guy can't, do the bad thing that's going to prevent it from getting there. Okay. So how does that work? Practically, well, generally, when it comes to cyber, we've got to understand external requirements are a big deal. I ask this all the time. I do keynotes. How many of you have clients with regulations? Raise hands. How many of you have new clients? All of them, right? Just about, yeah. How many of you have third party and how many of you have clients that say, my big client's making me do this year? Happens like crazy now. Third party and fourth party requirements, and then of course cyber insurance. I got to do all this stuff to get cyber insurance. Hey, MSP, I don't know what this user access review means. I don't know what this identity and privilege access management means. We can help you with that. That's what we do. We'll help you solve for all of that, right? So those are big things. So the client, what they're just trying to do is survive. What the client is trying to do is operate. What the client's trying to do is make the next buck. So our job is to be like this. You ever seen those crazy domino things that the kids do in like schools? And it's amazing, like 10 minutes, dominoes falling. It takes this one little person, just move one domino, and then kinetic energy does the rest. That's how cyber works. We need to help the client understand, what's so amazing is I can go into that huge domino thing and put my hand in it and stop the entire rest of it by just one little quick move. And that's what we're about for you, is building cyber that comes in and stops all those bad things from happening, and understanding that breach typically is one thing falling after another. It's not like a boom, push a button, get breach. It's a slow combination of things, right? It's like take CyberFOX, for example. We're not here to pitch you today, but what we do really well is we kill out admin privileges. Admin privileges are part of so many breaches. We do that. Oh my goodness. We have done so much to actually make effective cybersecurity off one fell swoop, one small little thing, one effective tool. I'm not saying we're CyberFOX and done, but I'm saying that's just one easy example of stopping a whole bunch of bad stuff from ever happening, right? Clients get that. And clients will say, thank you for not nerding out with me, but thank you for understanding that what you're just trying to do is prevent the awful stuff from happening. Now, what will happen though, is you will get pushback. You will have clients that come to you and they will say, I don't want to do all this. So let's talk about some of the hurdles, because I think these are effective, and you can turn this into marketing copy. You can turn this into sales training for your own people. You can deal with some of this. One of those is these darn regulations. When is this junk ever going to stop? Well, that's a great question. And we can actually take a lesson from the automobile industry. Look at this. This comes from Visual Capitalist. What they did was they tracked automobile safety over decades. And they tracked deaths per meal. So every million miles driven, how many deaths are on the road? And when you know in the old days, in the 1960s and 1970s, was basically no regulation. We looked at those big army boats of car, army tanks of cars, like those are so secure and safe. They were much more dangerous than today. And what you can do is you can actually trace all of the new regulation requirements in the automobile industry. And when you know it, cars are more safe than ever before. Even as people are live streaming and TikToking as they drive, yet they're still safe. I have a 16-year-old, he got a car. Within 30 days, he totaled it. But you know what's amazing? Because he had a newish car, he walked out of it. Airbags went off. He crawled out the window, had some cuts on him, but he walked out of it. If he were driving a car from 1980, he'd have been killed. And I just say that to say I am so thankful for regulations for forcing the right things to go in play. Now, not turn it into a political statement other than saying the fact is data shows regulation is makes cars safer. Here's the data to show it. And this is what's happening in the cyber world. Cyber insurance is requiring new things because data is showing this makes a difference. So you just got to be able to explain that to a client to say it's part of the world that we live in, right? Let me skip through a couple things that I just don't think are super important just for time's sake. But one thing I have seen in my days in just looking at ransomware attacks, 16 days is the average outage time of like hard outage time. That's the average. That doesn't count time to restore, lawsuits, all that other kind of stuff. Easy question you ask the client. Hey, if the average is 16 days, what would it do to your business if half your revenue for the month is slashed? Like that could shut them down. That could be the 60% is actually real in this case, right? It could be they're thin, their margins are so thin that they say that would take a year to recover from. So we should ask the question, what does it take? Because we don't want to be throwing money down the toilet, so to speak. What about when clients say to you things like this? I'm too small for anybody to care. Come on, man. I'm tiny. No one's going after me. They're going after Bank of America. Bill already talked about this, but this data comes from eSentire. They did a study of, 9,000 people. So the thousands of companies. So they call it 4,000, 5,000. And isn't it what's amazing here is they were showing, look, 185 victims with over 5 billion. Whoa. And I'm looking at this like, do you see what I see? The vast majority of ransomware victims are tiny little companies, 1 to 25 million revenue. The vast majority, meaning that bad guys go after the small guys and gals because they know that they don't have the defenses that the big ones do. Yes, the damages for the big ones are huge, but the average everyday ransomware attack, just like Bill said, they go after the easiest one. And it's exactly what we need to worry about. Here's another
It's
one.
the path, yeah, it's the path of least resistance, right? So
Yep,
like it's about reframing and resetting their expectation as to what cyber attacks actually are. Where do they actually come from? Like, simple things like you can subscribe to malware as a service. You can subscribe to ransomware as a service. You can use AI to generate a phishing campaign. You can go get a mailbox on the internet in a couple of minutes, a bunch of them, right? And
that's
then
right.
all I have to do is just go get a list. I mean, how many articles have you guys read where it's like, oh, 10 billion emails and passwords were exposed? That's all they need. I subscribe to a framework. I have 10 billion email addresses. I got a bunch of fake email accounts, and AI has generated my phishing. Anybody can do that, right? It's all about that target of opportunity. And I go back to that ring camera example. You've all seen it. Try the door, go to the next one. Try the door, go to the next one. They didn't necessarily pick you because the house or the car or whatever. It was just like whatever is open. I want to see if I can get my hands on it. And that's all these guys care about. It's all just target of opportunity. You are a name on a list somewhere. And that's what we're trying to protect people from. It's like if you just lock the doors and put the car in the garage, like do some simple things, it a lot of potential risk off the table. And it could be just anybody. SMBs make up, I had this from another report, it was like 90% of the businesses in the world are SMBs. So that's pretty much all of us.
Yep, that's exactly right. All right, we got 1 minute to bingo, so I'm not going to go through the rest of this other than maybe just a couple little quick quips. Average Russian salary is $14,000 a year. So don't mistake when we say we're too small for anyone to care. A 50,000 to $75,000 ransom makes a Russian guy. It's a huge difference for them. So yeah, because you're small actually makes you a bigger target. I could go on about all this stuff. I'm not for sake of time. I'm just going to end with this. We got some giveaways for you, some free stuff. Who's in the driver's seat, you or the client? Who's the expert? I'm not saying being arrogant, But I'm saying understand that you have the data, you have the knowledge, and in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. You may feel like I'm not an expert, but you're more of an expert than your client. Why? Because you've been doing this. You're the expert. So just understand it's important. So I got some team takeaway questions. Use your snipping tool, snip this. We'll send you the slides, email us. But got some questions you can ask your own teams. They're all there for you if you want to see them. And then lastly, we promised a giveaway. At CyberFOX, we developed something called the Simple Seven. It's awesome. It is all here for you. It is all free. There's no cost to this. Ton of marketing materials you can use for outreach, for discussion with clients, things you can rebrand. It's awesome. So go grab that. I'm going to leave that QR code up for just a second if anyone wants to get access to that. And it's really, really great. And again, we'll send you the slides. You have this as well. Anything you want to add to the Simple Seven, Bill, that an MSP should know?
No, just some really cool download, like everything out there is downloadable. So you can print it, brand it, stick it in your marketing stuff, make it part of your presentation. Some of the again, we said try to keep things simple. Leaving back a 250-page report, probably not going to get the results you want. But focusing on the 3 to 5 things, covering the basics of what they just need to be aware of and what they care about, and leaving some basic leave behinds for them. And all of this stuff's available for you. So hopefully it'll help you be successful, more
Yep.
successful.
Exactly right. If you missed either of the other two that we've done in this series, this is a three-part series. It's all right here for you, and that's why we've got this recorded as well. If you're watching this on the recording, same thing. It's all here. You can also go to our YouTube page and grab it there. But yeah, go check those out if you'd like to see them. And lastly, if we can ever help you in any way, reach out to us, cyberfox.com. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We're helping thousands of MSPs in their growth journey, and especially around privilege and access management, password management, identity, all of these things. MSPs love us because we're simple, we're elegant. You can get it going in minutes, not months. And is at a price point that is awesome, super affordable. So reach out to us. We'd love to help you in any way. Cyberfox.com to reach out. Bill, anything else in closing?
I'm good, man. Y'all have a great day. As Wes said earlier, we know your time is valuable, and we really do appreciate you guys carving out some time for us and to sit and listen. And honestly, man, we just really want to help. So if there's anything that we can do to help you guys out, to make you guys more successful, to that one little thing that you go, oh crap, I'm not doing that. That might really help me. That's what makes Wes and I's day. Like, we just couldn't be happier. If we're helping somebody out, then, it's a good day.
That's right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you.
Have a good one, guys and girls.